afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you on behalf of the G Environment and the G Research, who jointly organized this this high-level panel on symbiosis. We are here to introduce a new European Union-funded flagship initiative, which is called Hubs for Circularity. H4C aims to accelerate the green transition of industry, and especially of those hard-to-abate sectors that are so important for the twin objective of climate neutrality and zero pollution under the Green Deal. We are giving the floor now to our host, Mr. Jürgen Tiedje. He is the head of unit for industrial transformations with DG RTD, and is focusing on industries, process industries, manufacturing, and especially coordinating the activities of the Commission on, around public-private partnerships, which are so important for circularity and industrial symbiosis. Please, Jürgen.
Thank you, Alvia. It's a pleasure to be here, and good afternoon to all those who are listening to us, wherever they may be. You see, I'm a bit here also. My home is my castle behind me, and I'm very much looking forward that we come to times where we can actually meet again in a more physical setting. I'd like to give you a bit insights on what we understand on circularity hubs, a concept which the industry has proposed to us and which the Commission would like to bring forward and to roll it out to experts, not only to the industry, but also to regions. I prepared a few slides, and the technical challenge is now, if a colleague in the REG can a bit open these slides, that would be nice. Is this possible? Huh? No? Okay, I think I will then carry on. Let's wait that the slides are coming. Circularity hubs is a concept which has been proposed in particular by the process manufacturers and the energy intensive industries. It has been proposed in the context of a roadmap which they developed in a future partnership called Process for Planet for the next 7 years. It's an important instrument by which we would like to engage not only with these industries, but also with regions and others to implement the Green Deal in very concrete terms. I think here you see a slide which gives you a very first overview. This is a very systemic thinking, and it brings together two concepts. You have energy intensive industries, the chemicals, the steels, which are global competitors, global players. And you see the concept of local proximity. How can these global players in regions actually work together with regions, with SMEs on circularity, on wastewater, on energy, on solid waste? How to turn this into something completely new? The big bubble in the middle shows to you actually with how many players we can actually engage. And here the concept is a bit developed further. If we can go to the next slides, that would help me. Thank you. I think the next slide sheds some light a bit more on the concept. I think it shows to you, first of all, we are not speaking about products. We're speaking about first of a kind lighthouses. We speak about something very big. We speak about something which should be about to be commercialized in the world of steel, in the world of chemicals. It's very big. So we are not speaking about designing a new product. It's designing a new system based on plants. I think we are looking here not for something which you hear like about digital innovation hubs. Completely different concept. Here we would like to engage with industry using their technologies, how to turn wastewater, what we do on energy, what do we do on solid waste, and how can we engage into something completely new. I think, Alvea, you mentioned at the beginning the idea of industrial symbiosis. Industrial symbiosis is a concept where you have actually plants cooperating with each other. We know Kallenburg, we know other examples like Smart Delta Resources, and we'll hear more, I'm pretty sure, later on, given all the speakers here we have. So It is not about a program for digitizing SMEs via digital innovation hubs. It's a program we are planning where big plants engage with the concept of industrial symbiosis. Would like to roll it out to industrial urban symbiosis. What about the waste coming from cities? We're talking about solid waste. We're speaking about plastic waste. We can also speak about water. And how can we create actually a new system? Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. Here we have drawing you a magnificent example where you see on the right side actually the plants, the industry, and what a whole, not only flow of value chains, actually a workflow, what you can do with solid waste, for instance. What can you do? How do you engage with others? It would take me half an hour to take you through, but it's just an example that we have very concrete ideas. And I think the ultimate goal here is also the industry in this partnership is committed, for instance, also to full circularity. Full circularity, you cannot manage without other players. You can't. You need to engage with regional players. You need to engage with players in the energy sector and also in the water sector. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. I'm conscious of time. I would like to draw your attention in particular to the table on the right side. Because if you speak about circularity hubs, you're not just thinking about technology readiness levels. You have to speak about how to bring a system together. And this is a very, I think, a very telling methodology, which a report has been developed. Klaus Sommer is the author of this report, and it's publicly available. And he explains if you would like to roll it out, you need to rethink industrial symbiosis, industrial urban symbiosis with many other players. It's not only rolling out a particular technology, like rolling out a software in a given factory or plant. No, it's a different thinking. So we call it symbiosis readiness level. And can we go to the next slide? Okay, so far so good. Concept, nice ideas, discussions with the industry, with the regions. This gives you an overview about topics which we'll propose under Horizon Europe. So you see here a program, and if you look at the orange part, you find here one research innovation action and one innovation action and one complementary support action. The last one should actually help us to set up a huge network because we need the stakeholders engaging, developing this concept and the mapping. We would like to roll it out over the coming years under Horizon Europe. And maybe the good news for those who are following currently Horizon Europe, this is going to be real. The call will be out on the 22nd of June, and the call deadline is the 23rd of September. I think we had a huge debate on this work program under Horizon Europe. It's Cluster 4, and Cluster 4 is dealing about digital, industry, and space. And there you will find very concrete topics where people can apply. As I said, it's happening in June. And if I may add, and it's not on the slide because it was real-time information from last night, this is coming now to birth. We expect proposals, and we will also, if you allow me, info days on the 29th and 30th of June, where people can engage with us and get more questions also on this idea of circularity hubs. Avea, I think I leave it now. I was probably too long. I'm looking forward here to a very lively discussion. And stay tuned together with Dominique Planchon to answer all questions you might have. Thank you very much. We can't hear you, Arvia. You have to, oh, yeah.
Actually, I was saying you haven't been too long, and you're breaking the news of a new series of calls, which is certainly going to be of extreme interest for our audience. Now, your approach has focused on high-intensive energy industries, which are clearly very important at the center of the development. And we are going to show to our audience a brief video that is going to give an insight about how we are pursuing and what sort of vision for the industry of the future in Europe we have. And what do we mean when we speak about circularity, keeping resources in the loop, closing technical loops, and creating shared values. If you can now share the video.
The European Green Deal is Europe's new growth strategy. We have to act now.
So basically, what the video has been showing is exactly what Jürgen Tiede was explaining us, the full combination and the way in which circularity and symbiosis link the twofold objectives of the Commission and the ambition of zero emissions, climate neutrality, and zero pollution by 2050. And we need to create these operating working models, these real case scenarios, these operating examples that are going to be able to activate and accelerate the transition. And here today, as a second speaker, we invited an academic, a thought leader, but also an executive with important corporations internationally. She's a specialist in energy. She's head of innovation and energy with INEOS, which is a large global chemical company. And she's going to provide us with insights about how you can realize in practice and achieve in practice this system shift, this mentality shift, and how you can really change the processes, which is a daunting challenge for the future. Great fun at 12.
Thank you. And thank you for unmuting me as well. Thank you, Arvea, for the nice introduction. I will indeed take you through some examples of industrial symbiosis, and I will focus on one of the older Horizon 2020 projects, which definitely show what Arvea already said, and also how Jürgen has introduced this industrial symbiosis, that there is a synergy between academia and industry, and also with society and government to drive this synergy and to drive this symbiosis forward. So EPOS is a project that goes back quite a while. It is from the old Horizon 2020 series, and it was embedded in the then called SPIRE partnerships, which of course is now at closing loops in that energy-intensive industry to make the foundation industries more efficient, more cost-effective, competitive, and sustainable, precisely through industrial symbiosis. So, in essence, it was the circularity, the hubs for circularity before the word was even born. And if you would look at the website, which you can see on the screen right now, embedded within the SPIRE website, there is an animation that tells you what the biggest hurdles have been and how industry has approached urban industrial, but also industry-industrial collaborations. And the idea was to really facilitate symbiosis, to validate it, and to also make tools to enable to facilitate symbiosis with any actor around you, and then, of course, generate impact. But all of us, we know that the biggest hurdle, the biggest barrier in symbiosis is not knowing what the other industry or what a city has, what the other industry or city does, how we could collaborate. And therefore, EPOS has built blueprints. And it is a way to enter the digital era as well, because those blueprints actually show what another company might have. And when you have a bit more information or when you get into contact, then the other industry or city can tell you more about it. Not only has EPOS provided blueprints to help understand and trigger symbiosis, cities and industries alike, but it has also provided some technologies to how to introduce industrial symbiosis across cities, across industries. So if we move forward down the slide pack, and it's a bit unfortunate because it's really not visible very well, so apologies for that. But let me give you an example from the chemical industry, where, as you can see, a chemical industry has a waste stream. And in this case, it's a waste stream that is highly calorific. And there is nearby a cement industry which has a kiln. And a kiln that is not optimally used at the moment. It still needs some primary fuel to really burn all the waste and to make energy. So the basic idea here was to optimize the kiln by sending the waste fuel from the chemical industry to the cement industry. But what has EPOS done then? Because you will say, well, that's happening every single time and that's happening a lot. What EPOS has done is go beyond that idea, put some innovation in there and try to see what if we would split the stream? What if we would separate the stream and bring part of it to be reused at the site? The acid fraction, going back to the site, closing a loop, making a circular way to the spiraling economy towards the cement industry. And then what is next on the table and how to bring in districts and urban communities. Well, you could also use part of that energy to feed districts, neighboring districts. And that is where innovation comes in. That is why we need to know very much what is around us and how to move forward. And we can learn from existing experience. We know how it was in the past because of chemical clusters that exist for decades, like the Ineos site in Antwerp. But enabling a circular and a spiraling economy is not only about sites and clusters, it can also be simply projects where you look at the value chain, or should I say value cycle here, a value chain that brings together partners across the chain to work together. It can be around a waste stream, but it can also be around an idea that we have, like collecting carbon and collectively send it to a sink or utilize it. Or it can be networks like for district heating or for steam or for resources, etc. You will see that there is a tremendous lot of possibilities in industrial symbiosis. And that is what Aspire, now also called Processes for Planet, tries to do with the new concept of hubs for circularity. And that hubs for circularity, they are key to the research that we do. They are key to what we do within the research area at University of Ghent, with a PhD of Francisco, with a master thesis of Rob, looking where those hubs for circularity are and looking for the concept that we all know, the yin and yang. Yin and yang being a concept that makes seemingly opposite, seemingly contrary forces to interact, to interrelate, to interconnect, to become complementary, to become interdependent, and to create the very heart of symbiosis. Now, unfortunately, you won't see this as well because the slides are obviously far too light to be seen. But in essence, what it had a tremendous number of options to do symbiosis across industries and across communities. But it always comes to the same thing. A group of organizations tries to work together around one topic and brings it towards a sustainable way forward and brings it into that sustainable concept of yin and yang based on a wish, a need, or a duty to collaborate, starting from a policy or starting from the industry wish or starting from society. And that is my last slide. The last slide brings together, it invites citizens to come into the play, to have that sharing and caring community that is called urban industrial symbiosis, together with government policy like circular economy, academia to do the research, and industry hubs to, for an example, use industrial or chemical or industry intensive industries on energy and on resources. If you want to know more, you have my contact details on the screen. Thank you, Ervia.
Thank you, Professor Geert van het Velde. Really interesting. And what I personally like about both circularity, symbiosis, and your work is this concept of holistic approaches that are needed to really drive the transition and the change. And this is going to be an element which is going to weigh heavily in the way companies, but also stakeholders in societies collaborate in the future. And I think this next speaker is going to be able to go deeper into and think deeper and describe deeper the way a group of stakeholders and companies, public and private, have gathered together as early as 1961 to imagine a new way to do business. And the interesting thing was that this was a business-driven approach because it was a value creation and resource efficiency-driven approach. Another thing, and this is going to be the last comment for you, Tue, from Kalundborg Symbiosis, is that openness and cooperation must keep doors open at international level. For instance, already in an early visit of Chinese delegations to Kalundborg Symbiosis, you created a situation and an exchange that was seminal and very important to develop circularity in China. Please, Tue.
Thank you very much, Evie, and thank you, Greet and Jürgen, for a very interesting presentation. And I'm very honored to be here today. And you're very right. we are the Kalundborg Symbiosis, and we are a practical example of more than 5 decades of symbiotic acting. And yes, we did start in 1961, where we had a challenge with the surface water. And this was, as you can also describe in the SFL, the symbiosis readiness level, it was started with a good idea and has been developing over the last 50 years until today, which would be the symbiosis I will present in a second. I just need to see if someone can enable my slide control, please. Thank you. This is our symbiosis look from a practitioner's view, and this is also describe how we do it and what we do, and what this is also a picture of is the bay of a partnership. The bay of a partnership with the partners within the Kalundborg Symbiosis. And just to give you a few names of who are we actually. I am representing the Secretariat, but I'm also representing 12 companies. And that would be the 12 companies you can see here at the bay chart. The one is the Equinor Refining Denmark, which is a refining oil company. Another one could be Ørsted, which is the energy plant, steam, electricity, and heat. One is a Guybrush Saint-Gobain, plasterboard for building industry. We have the Novo family, which is among the top pharmaceutical enzyme companies in the world. We have Vista Green, which is like a refining waste oil company. And also we have the Kalundborg Bioenergy and way more. But we also have, as you said, we are the Triple Helix Foundation, where we have the business, the authorities, and the research development behind. So we also have the municipality, which has been a long-term planning resource in creating the symbiosis, which was originally based on a good idea at the SRL level 1, as you can represent it. And today we just welcome, as you can see in the upper right, we welcome the Christian Hansen, who's a global Danish biotech company, who's just located in the symbiosis. So if you look into this bay of partnerships based on authorities, businesses, and research and development, what is the characteristics of this? One is proximity. The other one is difference. There's no competitors in this symbiosis. And the other one is a local commitment. And these 3 dimensions create a unique partnerships only focusing on sustainability and also financial growth. And I think that is one of the recipes creating a successful symbiosis. Can I have the next slide, please? So what is our mission in Kalundborg? Our mission is to create a symbiosis based on sustainable development through partnership leadership. Our approach towards sustainability is a long-term, responsible utilization of resources in a balance with the economy, the environment, and societal consideration. So we actually combine all elements of society. So how do we do this? Oh, that means that how do we actually execute this triangle? And looking for our side in our part of the world, it is only based on trust, confidentiality, openness, equality, and cooperation. Next slide, please. So this means that our vision is that we will be the world leading industrial symbiosis with a circular approach to production. As in, how do we do this? Oh, I have to define, sorry. So by symbiosis, we also understand a local partnership where we provide, share, and reuse resources to create a shared value. As you can see in the former slides, a shared value in the bay of the partnerships. So then we have like 3 dimensions. We focus on renew, which is like strengthen the partnership, develop, and anchor local symbiotic mindset. We will continuously define ongoingly and attract new members to establish new flows. We involve and convey and contact with external parties such as universities, visitors, inspirations, and also include as many as possible over time in the symbiosis. Actually, we have this ambition to be an open and value-creating network in the form of an active board or subgroups. We also need to connect. That means connect means full resource utilizations. And that will be on our streams and flows, which means that water, energy, and material flows from partners, all these has to be included in the symbiosis. That will happen through a systemic approach to the parties' flows. We will select the greatest potential initiate new projects that will ensure continued resource optimization. So what we did yesterday, we'll of course continue to do tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, but we will always be seeking towards new flows, new things. So our ambition is by 2025, we will have implemented 10 new projects enhancing new flows. Another thing is that one of the reasons we're here today, of course, we want to share the symbiotic mindset. We want to inspire others, but we also want to be inspired by others in Europe. So we're actually engaging in a lot of communities to learn others about how we do and how we actually give our practical experience to others. Can I have a next slide, please? So this is what you see here is even more practical. This is our streams and characteristics. We have 20 streams, 3 different types. One type is water, one type is energy, one type is material. Each of these floating streams, as you can see at the screen, represents bilateral agreements between the partners, sometimes even more bilateral agreements. So that could be like one stream or one company have maybe 3, 2, 5, 10 bilateral agreement in order to share the resources. In the recent up-to-date program showing the significant changes compared to the previous diagram, that could be we have the construction of a biogas plant, elaborated streams from suppliers, we have internal use of excess heat at the Novo site, we have conversion of the power plant a few years ago. So what can you say out of this? You can say, lesson learned. Industrial symbiosis is characterized as a dynamic and organic ecosystem, developing over time according to the changes, demand-driven, and also in the change in the frame condition, markets, partners, or even corporate goals and ambitions. And we are, of course, also looking to the regulation side. So as you also mentioned earlier, we have the Green Deal, which hopefully will create more demand-driven regulation over time. Next slide, please. Just have a look of a specific stream of water cascading into different qualities used a number of times and of different partners. So this is again a very practical example. If you go to the top where you see the lake, the stream of the water starts from the lake. It is cleaned roughly, used for cooling down manufacturing process at a plant. From here, it is heated water is upgraded to district heating for the city. That's why we have the municipality and for the city, and it is much cheaper to steam up already hot water. So here we also save that. The heated process water is upgraded again, speeding up the biological process at the biogas plant and wastewater treatment plant, exploit nutrient added to the water through the process of the new plant. Again, we are returning surplus heat to the plant for the heating purposes and electricity to the grid. And the excess heated processed water could be the value proposition to attract new companies in the area. So you also have like investment promotion angle. Who knows? Or collecting the water as a reserve to try to season or sudden needs. You never know. Back to the reality. The heated water or heated processed water is mixed with the domestic water, speeding up the biological purification process of the utility because the temperature of the stream is rather high. After the purified waste water is used to the utility in the gigantic heat pump, supplying the city with the green district heating, then we are back in society again, seeing that the industrial process is actually covering all the housing, the people, and so they will get absolutely cheaper supply. And the rest of the water goes into the sea. But again, characterized as a symbiosis is a fully circular approach, and maybe one day the surplus, the reservoir will not go into the sea. It will go a different place. So just again, a question of or a picture of being extremely organic. Can I have the next slide, please? And here coming back to what, as Jürgen presented at the beginning, the SRL, the symbiosis readiness level. And I think this represents a really good tool for all who is engaged in the symbiosis development. And as Jürgen said, and as I said about the Kalundborg symbiosis, it all started with a good idea. And with a good idea, we can divide this into certain steps. And here we have used 9 steps. So when you are at the SRL 9, we have a resilient partnership. But again, as I said, it's an organic journey. And as always, room for improvement. So if you ask me, this slide, it should have an arrow going back to the SRL1, which like that has to be open for new good ideas. So we have an organic and dynamic symbiosis over time.
Well, I think we are approaching the end of your contribution.
Yes, can you have the last slide, please? Thank you. As my last slide, you see all my contact details, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting again, but everyone is. And we're moving from an approach which is an industrial approach, a process-related approach. We're talking about innovation which is cross-sectoral. This is something that has been repeated by the three speakers. And we are talking about stakeholder engagement as well, which brings us to an example of urban symbiosis to Lahti, who is, the winner of an award, of a European award. You are the European Green City for 2021. You got very ambitious objectives. You want to go carbon neutral or climate neutral by 2025? That's a question that I wanted to ask you. But regardless, you've been working a lot on all the streams, waste management, water treatment, and as the others, you've brought together companies and operators in a specific area to exchange and work together. Talk about Lahti.
Thank you very much. My name is Elina Ojala and I'm the environmental director in the city of Lahti. So as mentioned, we are the European Green Capital this year, and we are by far the most northern, the most eastern, and also the smallest green capital so far. We have about 120,000 inhabitants. And despite our small size, we have big environmental ambitions. We aim to be carbon neutral by 2025. So this is already in 4 years. And it's actually 10 years ahead of the national target of Finland. And we also aim to be waste-free by 2050. Our special year themes are carbon neutral life, citizen participation, and circular economy, and nature and water. We've chosen these 4 themes, and we execute these, for example, by offering budget funding for citizens who propose good projects. So we have this kind of funding mechanism in place. We haven't just started our environmental work, but actually we've done this for decades already. And as you saw in the video, our lake, the lake we are located by the Bay of It, was very polluted back in the old days, but the rescuing project started in the 80s, and it was a long project, but it was worth it. And nowadays it's more of an oasis to our citizens, and also we can eat the fish and we can swim in it and do all kind of activities there. And actually it's connected to a lake where they take drinking water to our capital, Helsinki. I would like to highlight from this timeline the year 1998, when we put our waste management system in place, and this was based on source separation, and it still is. And then the year 2019 was very important to us when it comes to our carbon neutrality target, because we were able to abandon coal in our district heat production, and it made kind of a crash in our greenhouse gas emissions. We have been able to cut our greenhouse gas emissions by 70% already. And of course, this is a continuing process. So the Green Capital Year is one stop on the journey towards sustainable city. The utilization of municipal waste in the city of Lahti has developed a lot in the past years. From 2007, the landfill, the amount of waste ending up to landfill was more than half, and now it's the utilization rate is 99%. So this is something that has changed a lot during the past years. This is a picture of our industrial symbiosis in the waste center, or should I say circular economy center. There's a lot of things happening in this picture, but it's an area with a lot of functions. It's a place where the waste arrives, and it is sorted again at place, because of course there are some the sorting is not absolutely perfect by the citizens or by industry, but so that we have a sorting plant, and we made a big investment in this plant, and it does the sorting, and it directs the material flows onwards. And I would like to give an example on the roofing felt waste that is developed into asphalt pavement at the end. So this is something that the process happens on the site here. And another thing is this area here. So we have local biogas production made from the bio waste collected, and also the sewage sludge, and this biogas can also be put on car tanks in a gas station that is next to this waste center. So it's really low emission biogas that we can use here. And to finish, I would like to say that this area has been very actively used, as I mentioned, and we are looking for a new place, or actually there are plans to get a bigger place in the future, because this kind of activity is very popular in the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Once again, a very interesting contribution. First of all, the audience is asking if you all may kindly write your contacts and details in the chat so that they can get in touch with you anytime. We got a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to streamline them fast. The first one I would say goes to Jürgen Tiedje, because it's more of a policy question. The audience is asking about the European Union ambition and how H4C is going to drive it forward in practical terms, and this link about zero pollution and zero emission through circularity. And there is another question on the same line. What about the revision on the European Union Industrial Emission Directive? How does it fit in the picture? And I would ask a second question for you, Jürgen, and for Gret, if it is possible. So you answer those two together. What are reliable circularity metrics? This is very important, how we measure circularity. And that brings to mind another question that I'm asking myself about the taxonomy. I mean, circularity is mentioned in the taxonomy, but we largely don't know what circularity is going to look like, really. I mean, industrial symbiosis. So the metrics, and how do you encourage industries to move towards circularity and symbiosis? The first two questions for you.
Thank you. Quite a lot to start with, and then I'm handing over to you, Gret. Let me start with the Industrial Emissions Directive. So, of course, that's a good question. Many common elements we have to look into this. I keep it very short. Yeah. So, if you speak about industrial emissions, it can have positive effects, and you can actually turn it also into something and using it in circularity hubs to think, is it linked to waste? Is it linked to gas? So the second question is, I'm speaking about the benefits for the companies. I mentioned a study from Klaus Sommer on industrial symbiosis, which we published in March 2020, and maybe we can send the link around still today. Because he was really studying what are the available technologies funded under Horizon 2020 projects. He analyzed around 28 projects. And he was also making estimate, what does this mean on saving on industrial water? Saving in terms of, I think, also CCU, energy, etc. So that's important. I think the second point is a very concrete model, actually, where companies can think no longer linear in terms of value chains, but also circularity, and to engage with their regions, and also to draw benefits why they're placed in a given region. Because the region has also an interest to keep the companies. So there are plenty of benefits. It requires, however, a major change. I think in terms of an economic analysis, I'm referring to different projects. EPOS was mentioned by you, Gret, and there are others. Studies which have been done, and they're all highlighted in this study from Klaus Sommer. We will send you the link. I try to do it still in the chat in the remaining 10 minutes. You mentioned taxonomy, sustainable finance, which is coming from the investor side. Yeah, we have to see that we reconcile this, but we should be conscious. I think EU taxonomy is mainly about investors and large companies. And we are actually here very interested also from the technology side and bringing different technologies together to make it happen. But no doubt, circularity hubs should play also a good role when it comes to the EU taxonomy. Investors want to invest into it. Yeah, so the link should be made, and we have to work further on this. So over to you, Gret.
Thank you, Jürgen. That was already a very good introduction. So I join in what you said. First and foremost, Industrial Emissions Directive, striving for zero pollution, which is the key theme of today and the key theme of the GreenWeek. So this is a link that we have to make, and it's also aiming at air as well as water and soil. So it means that there is a lot of, in a direct hub towards metrics, a lot of parameters out there that obviously have a link with metrics as well. As I have written in the chat already, the IED definitely has a role to play. What I just wanted to point out is that it's not so simple to make a directive apply to industry when it concerns more than one industry, which is always the case in industrial symbiosis. One industry or an industry and the city, of course. So it means industrial symbiosis is somewhere in between, and there is a set of metrics that has to be set for both sides. So that makes it a little bit more complex than a standard set of metrics. The metrics that EPOS has used was depending on who was the ask or who was the demand side or the supply side. So it was a wish to reduce CO2, for instance, so a way towards carbon neutrality. And that can be then done in percentages, it can be done in absolute targets, it can be done in intensities. So there's a set of metrics that was out there. Another metric that we absolutely want to put forward is cost. And it is something that we may never forget. Sustainability has three angles. It's not only environmental, like we now are saying in the frame of the IED, but it's also the social aspect of it, which is very much the topic of today as well. But it is also the economics behind it. So if a company says we need to have the economics right to make something happen, then it's definitely also one of the objectives, one of the metrics that we have always used. In the end, it is an MOO, like we academics dare to say, which is a multi-objective solution that we are looking for. So we try to optimize one or more of those objectives. But I'm taking too long, Arvea, so over back to you.
For Kalundborg, what is the best way to build and strengthen this trust, which is necessary to build industrial clusters wanting to evolve in a hub of circularity? And always on the same line, trust and collaboration also for Lahti, top-down, bottom-up relationship and stakeholder engagement. This is also interesting.
Thank you, and it's a very relevant question, even though it's a rather big question. But I think to ensure that would be the right amount of trust to ensure the collaboration, I think it's extremely important that you create an environment which is demand-driven, meaning that all the stakeholders, including the authorities, the researchers, and in particular the companies, will get economic benefit out of these kind of cooperations. We as a symbiosis has to facilitate the innovation and innovation leadership in terms of partnerships, but we also have to ensure that there will be a ground for bottom-up mechanism. So there will be an environment where the companies will be able to create the collaborations mutually.
Sorry to interrupt you. There is Lucina Levasca Andrinopoulou. Many of the other questions were anonymous, so I couldn't read the names. And she's asking about cross-sector collaboration projects in Belgium, if you know of.
Asking me?
As the Belgian in the room.
Yeah.
I can take it as well if you want.
Yeah, I can add as well. So if people want to study a very big project, this is actually the project called Smart Delta Resources, which actually combines the Netherlands and Belgium, bringing together Dow Chemicals and Arcelor sitting in Ghent, Dow Chemicals sitting actually in the Netherlands. They are not only focusing on research, they're also focusing a lot on infrastructure. But if people want to study, this is a very big project which has really developed out of the regions. We have not funded it. So just to give you an example, but there are plenty of other examples available.
The trilateral one between Belgium, the Netherlands and Germany is one as well. You have the whole Antwerp cluster, tremendous cluster. And then you have, of course, Suschem with the Belgian division of Suschem, Sustainable Chemistry, with Smart Symbiosis. So if you look up Smart Symbiosis, this is a website that also gives you quite a good idea of symbiosis projects in Belgium.
Okay.
Lahti, trust and stakeholders.
Yes, thank you. As mentioned already, the cooperation is very, very important in this theme, and I see the role as a city to offer a platform for discussion and also to bring people together and also to enable circular economy by the city policy, and of course we as cities we want to attract business and also to offer the possibilities to do business in this theme, and the local research is important in this, of course, and the citizen participation, not just teaching people to sort the waste, but also to change the mindset of for example, repairing stuff instead of buying new, and these kind of like change in mindset. And also in Lahti, we do a lot of environmental education for many age groups, and this is something where the children also teach their parents as our target group. The specific one is the children.
I think the closing remarks are for Jürgen Tiedje on behalf of the Commission.
Thank you. Okay, I'm happy. I think I will not now repeat what has been said. I think this was, for me, a very rich session, because it shows that we are not just going out here with concept from Brussels, but you see high-level experts who all see this is actually a concept which we have to develop further. And it's a concept, if you hear to the different examples, Lahti, Kalundborg, but also great with the EPOS project, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We have to start working on this much more in detail, and we offer therefore funding under the work program I was announcing at the beginning to work on the concept, on the matrix, but also we will launch big innovation actions, for instance, on solid waste. So the invitation for me is really, if people are interested in this, we would like to launch a kind of awareness campaign, and we would like also to reach out actually to the regions. This is a concept which only works if you look into regions and whether the regions are interested to take it up. And we saw here very good examples. I think for once you have actually a unique opportunity that the big industry, who is very competitiveness driven, is getting engaged into this. And you should not underestimate this momentum. I would say 5 or 6 years ago, no. Now with the Green Deal, they have to rethink how they want to do, and they think everything differently, from the product design to the mechanicals design, but also into their production facilities. So we see this as a big opportunity, and we are very happy also to engage further with stakeholders and not only limit our work to the calls which have just been published. We need to discuss this much further in future workshops, but also with regions, and we will also reach out to the authorities who are actually in charge of regional funding, that they start to track it. It's not up to us to prescribe this on regions, but to make them interested in this, because it's a huge opportunity. And so that's a bit where I would like to conclude. And we felt this was a very rich discussion. For the 1 hour we had, there was a lot coming across. And thanks a lot for all the very good questions. Maybe some of them have not been answered, but very good questions, actually giving us food for thought as well. Thank you, Arvea.
Thank you very much for this chance, and goodbye to our audience.